your colleagues. If you are focusing on you and only you behaving in a selfish way and not caring about anyone else that gets in your way, in publishing at least, I don't think that would warrant a promotion. There are other industries where they reward that kind of behavior, but that's not probably why we all work in publishing. If you're not adding value to the company, so really understand what companies are aiming to do. What is your boss's role? What are they aiming to do? And how are you helping that company achieve its goals? Also, you're not going to get promoted if you're not communicating clearly what you want. So you could be overlooked. So be really brave and clear in what your objectives are. And if you can identify the reasons why you're not being promoted, i.e. you haven't had any training, or you haven't you're missing something from your profile, your next appraisal, why not take that opportunity to go to your line manager and say, this time next year I want to be promoted, I love this company, I really want to but also progress. I've done all these courses online, I've used real initiative, been entrepreneurial, I want to move up the ladder and I want to stay here. What else does the company need, and how might that look in 12 months time, and what do I need to achieve? Can we create a professional development plan for me so I can stay with you? And be brave, but put it in a positive light that is in line with what they're trying to achieve and what the company is trying to achieve. And if they say no at that point, then you sort of know what your next steps might be.
You've covered so much in that answer. That's amazing.
Sorry.
No, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's just, it could be so many things. It can be teamwork, it can be the company, it can be you're managing it, not identifying things. There's so many angles, and obviously it's something you think about and work with a lot, and there's loads of things there.
And I think people that come to us as well are often really frustrated that they've not been promoted, and they can't see why they're not being promoted. And it depends, and this is the difficult thing, because if you are frustrated and you go to work acting frustrated, that's actually preventing you from moving up the ladder, unfortunately. And so, it might be that you do need to move companies for a fresh start, fresh outlook, but go in with your eyes wide open in terms of, before you even look at another role, what is the career trajectory for this role, so I can understand.
So you might actually have been wanting a promotion for so long that it's kind of just coming off in a way, and have as much, you could be like a real team player, but actually just quite frustrated, and that that's really interesting. For people looking to rise to senior positions, this is something we think about a lot here at Spain Another Time. Do you think it's better to be a specialist or a generalist?
So it really depends on the role and where the company is in its life cycle. So often senior level roles, and I'm talking director, board director, C-suite level roles, so it might not be as appropriate here, but you might as well know about it now, because it actually, if you can plan your career to the top, that's where you want to be. This is great sort of insight, because we do headhunting here at Inspired, and every time we're talking about where is the company in its life cycle. Are you a startup? Are you looking for high growth? In which case, somebody that has worked with high growth companies in a generalist role would be really appropriate, maybe, to drive that forward.
Because you don't have lots of different people. There aren't that many people, so you actually need someone who can take that.
And they might have had PLC experience, they might have had independent, it really depends. Whereas we could be working with an independent publisher who's actually wanting to specialize and sort of split up roles so that they've got more focus to develop in this area, in which case specialist skills are really, really key. So where we see this mainly, sales and marketing roles, really tricky at the higher end. Sales and marketing director, for example, we are looking for somebody that has got sales and marketing. And so at what point in your career do you decide well, I've done marketing for 10 years. I now want to be a sales and marketing director. I've got no sales.
Yeah.
So, if you can constantly be thinking about these roles at the top now, if you're mid-career, then you can sort of future-proof your career and make sure you've got both. Now that seems like a generalist, but it's still specialized, but they want everything. So it can be really hard to find those people. But if you can show both sales and marketing, for example, you're going to be much more viable as a candidate than someone that's just done marketing or just done
Or even
sales.
if you've done one side, but you have a really deep understanding of the other side and what the challenges are, and you can say, I've worked really closely with sales, and I've noticed that this, as opposed to tunnel vision.
Yeah. And the other really important thing is being able to manage people, but also manage managers.
Yeah.
So the quicker you can get to that kind of thing is really, really helpful. And so there's tons of like online courses you can do and things like that. Avoid people management if you would like to, because it's not for everyone.
If you'd like to.
It is quite exhausting and comes with a whole other heap of problems to solve. But I honestly think that you will hit a glass ceiling without it in certain companies and certain roles, because if we go back to the needs of the companies, they probably need people managers, and more people are saying, actually, I'd rather not people manage. So I go back to like when I was a kid, my parents wanted me to learn a musical instrument. I did, actually. I was very musical as a kid, and I just I thought of either violin or flute. And there was this amazing person that said, listen, if you want to be first chair in an orchestra, or Laura, I've always been really ambitious. I can't just learn a musical instrument. I have to like be the best. But you're going to be far more likely to get to first chair if you choose a more unusual instrument.
Yeah, so as well as specialist, where is your specialism? And
exactly.
If everyone can do it, then it's
And understanding that about yourself, like, would you put yourself in the flute section or the the oboe section, whatever, will give you a bit of insight into what you should be looking at and how risk averse you are, or how kind of, do you know what I mean? It's all linked.
Yeah. So it's not only whether you're specializing or you're going for the whole picture, but actually just being quite strategic about, if everyone wants to, I don't know, be an editorial fiction, and there's a huge pool of people, you could be really specialist, but there will be a lot of specialists, and if you can
the competition gets higher, whereas data people, that is an area which is specialist, but complete, like, you can completely see how those kind of roles are going to be so transferable. So they'll be specialists, but they could be generalist, as long as you're thinking about the long-term career in terms of making sure you're like networking with the salespeople, marketing. How does your role input to theirs? If you stay siloed and just in your little data bubble, then that's not going to happen.
I'm really glad you said that, because everything we're doing this year is about breaking down silos, and basically if you're in production, you learn about editorial, learn about all these different areas, and but at the same time specialist skills are needed. After being promoted, this is a tricky one. What tips we have, by the way, everyone, we have talked about these questions beforehand, we have run through it. What tips might you have for helping people to maintain relationships with colleagues and co-workers who might have wanted the position?
So I think this is where emotional intelligence plays a huge role in this. I think if you've been in the situation where you didn't get the job, you need to call on those kind of emotions and understand what your as peers are now going through if they didn't get the job. You might not know if they've applied. Hopefully it's all been really confidential and you won't know. But when you go to your job, when you sort of start in your promoted job, if there's any kind of sense of cold shoulder, a bit quieter sort of behaviour, maybe they have applied and didn't get it and are feeling a little bit upset, maybe disgruntled. It could come out quite aggressively as well. So just be aware of that. But the most important thing to be aware of when you've been promoted, if it's internally, is that you have been chosen. The company has confidence in you. And you want to go in and basically get as many people on board with you as you can. So I'd always say the first 30 days are making sure you spend at least half an hour to an hour with everybody outside of the office, like coffee, lunch, whatever you can do, to get to know them, understand what their jobs are doing and what their expectation of you is, because you might get some really good ideas as well, and you might be able to sort of find out, who's not quite on board. Try and sort of smooth that out, but at the same time focus on your career, what your job is there to do, and work really closely with that line manager to sort of really carve that role out for you. I think you have to look up in order to sort of bring the team with you, but think about what things might have been frustrating for you, or how they could add more value and feel empowered by your promotion as well. So I think that whole being collegiate and sharing and doing things in a new way that they think they've definitely promoted the right person here. This is really exciting and things are going to change. She knows, or he knows, what the kind of barriers to our success was, and he going to break them down and make amazing change. So bring the people with you, keep communication going up and down, and if the worst case scenario, somebody really is causing you grief, because I think it's important to talk about as well, they are aggrieved. It's actually, try not to take it personally. One, talk to your line manager, not the rest of the team. So ignore it. Don't reward that negative behavior in front of the team as well, because that just will sort of fuel it. And if you keep just moving forward, eventually it will sort itself either one way or another. They'll either get over it, or they'll move on to something else where they think they should be. So that's one of the hardest things. And then the other thing to talk about is just feeling like, oh, should I have got the role, and sort of self-doubting. Which everybody goes through, whether they admit it or not. Sort of bubbling away underneath. I've been through it. So you just really positive people that are championing you, and reminding you, how great you are, and just keep returning the compliment to them as well, because you don't want to be suddenly, so yeah, that's my advice.
Brilliant. I love that first tip particularly, which is just go and have a coffee with everyone, have those conversations. And I think sometimes we get so task orientated, and actually it's all about people. And if you go and have those discussions early on, then you're in a really good place.
I think that's it, and just remain genuine. Just I think the worst thing someone could do is just come in as a totally different person.
I'm the boss now.
Yeah.
I don't talk before 9.
Excuse me, I don't think my door is open right now. No.
No, it's a tricky one. Right, I'm just aware of timing. So I'm going to go to the we knew we were going to have so much to talk about. So I'm going to ask the question which was emailed in yesterday. And then we'll open up questions for anyone who's online. do you have any advice for someone looking to move from non-fiction publishing into fiction?
Yeah.
And I know a few people on here have done this.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know,
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, as I'm sure you can imagine, because actually, when people are looking to get into publishing from the start, we say, 90% of 70% of applications in publishing are people wanting to work in editorial in fiction and try something else. So we've sent all these people into other avenues and they're like, right, okay, how do I now move into fiction?
I wanted to go in the first place.
Okay, it's really hard, but it's not impossible. So I had a new think about this today, this morning when you sent that through, and I was thinking, okay, editorial, unfortunately, is still going to be the hardest because editorial jobs in fiction, A, they don't come along that often, and B, when they do, there's already people looking, to climb the ladder and things like that. It's not impossible. Here are my ideas on how you can do it. So, fiction at the moment, as well as non-fiction, is taking a bit of a new sort of stance. So we're really looking at trend publishing here, and the industry's got quite an appetite to hire in people from sort of media, TV, film, that kind of thing. We're looking at like Netflix models and Amazon Prime and things like that. So my best advice is, if you're not already, get under the skin of where the trends are, where the audiences are, where the bestsellers are. You have to know this stuff. And where are people commissioning these from? What agents should you know, and go and get to know them. You need to connect with the readers, so get involved in networking sites on Facebook or LinkedIn or Goodreads, things like that. You need a good read profile. You need to be reviewing books. You need to be reading the books as well. Here's a really cool idea. I mean, I'm just praising myself now.
The best idea I've ever heard.
This is amazing. I'm amazing. No, sorry. So why don't you create a really influential book club for a specific genre that you're really excited? And you know what? It might send your career in a totally different direction. The reason I said that is because I met the owner of Crime Squad recently. Now, he just started it as a hobby because he just genuinely loves reading thrillers and things like that. And now it's in whole like entities. So
you basically discover your audience, what they're doing, and then arrive at the interview like, well, I know this is going to work, this is my audience.
I've got a channel straight to the audience, or I've got a channel straight to all these new voices. So big trends at the moment are social and diversity and things like that. Anything in your covering letters, I'll bring that in, just bring it alive. Try and stand out from the crowd. Fiction is so creative, obviously it's the most creative side. And so in terms of non-editorial, publicity, marketing, all these things apply. It's all about what network you've got, what you can bring to the table, and just you've got to do extra work in order. So if that is a move that you want to make, start now by networking, doing extracurricular activity, and just absolutely eating, breathing, living fiction.
In a way, get your head out of books, out of industry, and
to the audience. People are looking for innovation, entrepreneurialism, that kind of thing.
The people who are getting those jobs are those best ideas. Great. We've got the Q&A box as well. Okay, we've got people introducing themselves in the Q&A box. Okay. Can you talk a bit more about how to manage, this is a really good question, how to manage up and support your line manager?
So some managers are going to be easy to manage up than others. So you've got to understand your manager. Somebody who's very direct, it might be hard to kind of break in. But before you manage up, one thing, you need to absolutely be expert at what you're doing. You need to be delivering what you're doing. And then once you've finished that, say, is there anything I can do to help you? Stop predicting what's coming up. So if you're in rights or something like that, your boss is going to be at London Book Fair. I've created some templates. I've created you a template to put your timetable in, that kind of thing, just off the cuff, because I know that will be helpful for you. I've created a list of publishers to talk your territory, and there's just to be these territories. Just like going the extra mile, getting noticed for nothing. You don't want anything from it, but types of activities like that will get you noticed. They're in line with what the company and the department want. But as well, you need to do your job first and foremost. If you're just trying to do stuff for your manager and you're not doing the job you're doing, it's not going to work.
Yeah, so it's once you're on top of everything you need to do, think,
yeah,
rather than thinking, oh, I'll go on social media, think, how can I, what are they up to? How can I support them?
Exactly. Or also like just keeping an eye out outside of your company as well. Whereas your manager might not have time to do that. If you finish your job, she's not letting, or he's, I keep saying she, I'm just referring to the person. If they're not, there's nothing you can do for them, you can look outside and say, oh, this was very interesting in the bookseller, or the Guardian had this article, I just thought it was really interesting in terms of how we approach this.
Yeah, that's really good. I hope, does that answer your question, Vera? I hope that's helpful. Thank you. Let's do one more question. So we've got Charlotte. What advice would you have for someone who has had several promotion interviews and has been told there's nothing they could have done better, but still not got the job? In a way, some feedback there would be better, I presume. You'd rather be told, yeah, you did.
Yeah, this is what you're missing, or this is what the other candidate brought. I think in terms of promotion interviews, are they all internal? And are they, I think to answer it, I sort of need to understand what roles you're going for, because if it's sideways step, a different role but up, it might be that somebody's already in that department that's been showing promise for a long time, so they've gone with that person. It just, there's a whole heap of sort of other things it could do. But if it is internal, just make sure, I guess, that you are, before you go to that interview, you've networked around that the new line manager, understanding what their kind of output is. Like, be brave and do, if it's like internal, for example, you've got that opportunity that external candidates don't have, which is to get under the skin of, what they're wanting to see in this process, but what bigger than that, like what they want this person to deliver.
Yeah, does that help? Sounds, I don't know. It's really difficult, and I mean, maybe even just saying more, like more.
Can I have, more feedback, please?
Exactly, just asking for more. So I will wrap this up, but I've seen we've got a couple more questions, and I've just, Charlotte says, thank you, you're welcome.
Yeah, good.
I've taken a snapshot of those questions, so Suzy and I will work out how to answer those extra questions. We're going to be running lots more questions coming up. I'll take another snapshot of that because they will disappear once you log off. So we'll answer those. If you would like to join us for another Wednesday Wisdom and you're not already on our mailing list, click on that link that I've just popped in the box, and you can sign up to find out more about our events and training. Suzy, I knew you would have those sort of interesting things to say, and I'm sure everyone's really inspired by that, and we'll work out how best to answer the rest of the questions.
Cool.
So much, Suzy. That's brilliant.
Oh, thanks for having me, and good luck, everyone. I'm looking forward to hearing about all your promotions.
Likewise, lots of thank yous coming. I don't know if you can.
Oh yes, that's very nice. Thanks, everyone.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.